can hear me, I would love to immediately get a sound check from the chat on this lovely Sunday live from Okie Smoky here in Oklahoma. My name is Takashi Chris, and this is Mindforked. And first of all, I want to say thank you to Dave Hurley for that lovely intro. Oh my God, everybody's in the chat. I already see Lynn. So we're going to talk here in a second. So thank you, Dave Hurley, for that lovely music. Love you so much. At the top of the chat, before I forget, I have pinned down a GoFundMe for my friend John Yost. He is only halfway there on the money that he needs. And we're here. We're going to try to help save his life. He's fighting through a lot, and we love him, and we wish him the best. So I don't do my own stuff. So if you want to give some money, give it to John, who really needs it. So while we are here this Sunday, honestly, because I'm not letting this one go. All this stuff went down, and afterwards, Cindy and I are talking, and we're like, "What happened?" I started watching the show, everything, all the footage in Spanish, and I started having a totally different experience with all of this. And we just started thinking, it's like, there's something to this, and it needs to be covered. For whoever's like mad or done with this subject or whatever, I'm sorry. I have open questions. My friends have open questions, and I will not be deterred. I have special aids today. So I am here to cover the subject. And, I am open to, we're open to any opinion. I have a panel. So, unfortunately, one of our panelists today is out sickies. And thank God I don't see Fab in the chat. I'm going to go say hi to chat here in a minute. But I don't see Fab in the chat. He would be totally heartbroken. We all are. But Linny and Dave have been sick with a cold. So we, put hearts for Lynn in the chat for her to feel better. And we love her so much. And also put hearts for Lulu, who I've been told that she has had diarrhea since midnight. So please, Lulu, her dog has the runs. Help Lulu. Imodium for Lulu. Hashtag make it happen. It's for Lulu. I'm in a mood for a melody. So today we're going to be talking Nazca mummies, the history, the tests, the players, and I've got a great panel that's going to talk about this. So before I bring them in real quick, and I think I've got my girl Amy in the back just handling comments, making sure we say hi to people. Let's say hi to a couple people real quick. Dutch Fly, hi. Rock has been there since forever. Love you, Rock. Poner Timmy. I have my fork ready. We're going to be showing the fork. That's such an integral part of the Mindforked panel. Diane Voss, Jeanette Angel. She is an angel. She's been posting about this. Oliviero, up late from Italy. Love him. Thank you so much for being here. Nightmare. I love Nightmare. Let me see. Am I missing J.A.? Hey, J.A. Ja. We call you Ja. Somebody came in and out, and I'm not sure. Oh, it's two Amy's in the background. I have two Amy's in green. It's okay. This is how this is going to roll today. And of course, you guys get ready because we got the debut of Hectic Stargazer Cindy. Just back there, Diane Boss, Lord Rebel Jack. I'm just so excited to have so many friends. So without further ado, today we're here to talk about the mummies. First of all, they're not mummies. They're actually desiccated bodies. Mindfork number one. But before we get there, I'm going to just represent, to make sure we cover our entire panel, that you guys get to know, everybody here. So I needed a team. So first of all, I was thinking our team should be comprised, first of all, me.
We lambda, and Omega Moon.
I am the crazy nerd. And then I thought, okay, we need one more. We're going to just keep growing this because we need many brains on this problem. So then I brought in the Starchild. Here we go. And she's on
Oh, thank you for that. Thank
Alien
you
Girl
for that.
111.
Can't believe
Because
you
all
did
of my
that.
guests on Mindforked get the best treatment. It's like I sent
So
Evian.
nice.
I sent people to like take baths in milk, whatever you need,
Thank
I
you.
treat them like J-Lo. Yeah, so welcome. How you doing? First of all, do you have
I'm
your
good.
fork,
Thanks so
Amy?
much. Of
Do you have
course
your
I
fork
do.
ready?
I'm ready to do this. Yes.
My fork, by the way, is I don't know if you can see, it says I fork and love you, and it came from Timmy Freestone. So Timmy
Aw,
Freestone, who's in the chat
so
today,
sweet.
thank you, Timmy. You're such a sweetheart. So I love my fork. So will you have the fork? Okay. Are you ready for today? Feeling good?
I'm feeling good. This is exciting. I'm happy to hang out a little bit on a Sunday and just talk about these crazy mummies. I don't know what's going on.
I know. And trust me, it's been a rabbit hole. So we have a couple of new people in the chat. Oh, first of all, I say hi, Norma, Matt D. Hi, Matt D. And I'm going to bring in my next panelist. Oh, and Dutch Fly. Hey, Dutch Fly, in case I didn't say hi. Okay. Now, I'm going to start with one of our friends, somebody we know, and her debut. This is a debut, you guys. This is, we called her a thinker. She's a researcher. She's a thinker. And we're going to bring her in. Hold on a second. Here comes the thing.
Firepower.
There she is. Boo, boo. Firepower.
Hey.
Hello.
She has been doing some crazy research. Cindy, welcome. After this, she won't talk to us. Like, she'll be like, not down with the people. She'll be too famous. We'll never see her. I can see how this is gonna go. But thank you so much. How you doing, Cindy?
I'm doing fine. I've got a lot of foreign film headaches because everything is in Spanish and I can't watch it anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of how we got started with this. We're going to talk about that. It's like we are talking about having completely different perspectives of something based on our native language and whether, something was done in translation. So I really do think there's something to that, and we're going to get to that. But before we go there, so because we don't have Lynn, sorry, Lynn, but I love you. She's in the chat. Thank you so much for being out there, sis. Next, last but not least, the scientist. So here we go. And it is Matt Moniz.
Science.
And there he is, Matt Moniz. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Uh,
Good to see you
yeah.
girls all again.
I know. I'm so
You too.
excited. Yes, it's been so long, like 5 minutes since we were in that green room. This is the kind of goofiness, full goofy going on over here because our brains are about to explode because we've been talking so much about these mummies. So how are you doing today, Matt Moniz? Before we go there, first of all, he's a chemist, Mr. Science, and a paranormal researcher. And I'm going to send him a jacket for second timer on Mindfork. We're going to do like SNL, but every time you come, you get a jacket. It might be
Cool.
like jacket, but I'm not sure. But yes.
Make sure mine's a straight one.
That's a straight jacket. That would be perfect jacket for Mindforks. Like
Perfect.
two-timer straight jacket. That's how it's gonna go. So thank you for being here today. And we're gonna take a little bit of a different approach to things. I wanted to, first of all, start going through, let's present a little bit of the history behind the area. One of the things that I personally, before we go there, actually, I do want to say this. I personally find really interesting, and one of the reasons why I love this is because it's Peru. And I think Peru has a lot of history. So we're going to be going through that. But everybody has their fork ready? Raise your fork. Raise your fork. Hey, there we go. Raise your fork. So the rules of the Mindfork panel, and it's only just to make sure that We don't talk over each other. I'm really bad about that too. So it really helps me out is just make sure if somebody has something to say, I'm gonna try to break this up into small subsets because there's a lot to this story that it's been lost either in translation or in perception sometime in the last couple of weeks. And I just thought it was really good to at least kind of lay it out there and make sure that everybody saw what we were seeing and to talk about it because that's what we're here for. So whenever you have something to say, you raise your fork and you will be recognized by Forky, the facilitator. Forky always facilitates, recognizes, says, like Amy can have the fork. And at that point, she can say whatever you want, and we're going to keep going. And if you guys on chat have a question, if you can put it in uppercase, like in big letters, because I'm super ADD. Otherwise, I'll miss it. And then I don't want to miss a really good question. So let's see. I'm going by my outline today because there's so much to cover. It's crazy. Let's get us started with a little baseline on what's going on there. And as part of that, first of all, before we even start, I do want to cover myself because we are going to be showing some clips. Uso justo. En acuerdo con la sección 107 de Ley de Derechos de Autor de 1976, se permite el uso justo para fines tales como crítica, comentarios, informes de noticias, enseñanza, becas, educación e investigación. And I do that because I want to make sure I'm covered in 2 languages. Pew, pew! So now I'm covered with the fair use on the screen, and I'm also covered in Spanish under fair use. So back to us. And I just like to speak Spanish. It kind of gets me going. I don't speak it enough, and I'm full Puerto Rican, so I might as well. So let's just cover a couple of things. So I do have a little presentation, and it's very small little slides. Again, one of the reasons why I love this topic is because I've done a show on giants, and I've done a show on Puma Punku. And whenever you look at that entire area, that whole section from Quito all the way to Santiago, I mean, it's full on Inca Empire. And one of the things that Cindy and I were talking about is, the amount of illegal market that goes on down in Peru and Bolivia, because people are out there, what they're calling the huaqueros, are the grave, they call them grave robbers. They're out there just digging stuff up, and there's a market for this. So, and at any point, if you guys want to make a comment on something I'm saying, I was just going to cover a couple more and cover some clips that I found were interesting about this particular situation in the area. Elongated skulls are a thing. I mean, and it's not only bound, but also bigger in size, and they have been found in the area. So this is just something that happens in that particular area. So that's something to consider. I'm going to play something here real quick.
Well, I mean, dodgy dealings. We're talking an international racket here of European and Asian people, hierarchy, got a lot of money, those sort of people that we're talking about that might be buying artifacts illegally. Terry is battling to keep artifacts in the country. It's as simple as that. He thinks it's important that they stay in Peru. And of course, some of these things, probably a lot of these things, are actually getting out there. Some of the things that we've actually been told is absolutely incredible. Be honest with you, one of those things was apparently, just like the Roswell footage, the Roswell incident, this foil that unfolds itself, apparently some of this was found and was sold for only $8,000.
So I'm going to stop there. So this is just one sample. I'm not saying these are alien mummies in any way. That happens to be a clip of a documentary that covers their team. And if anybody wants to talk about, we just saw the same thing. Cindy, you have some background on that as well. If you want to, well, you saw the same documentary. This actually came to us from Helen down in the chat. And I don't know if she's here today, but I thought it was really interesting the way that they this guy went to Peru and found, first thing he found is like, hey, there's something going on in this area. Is there a black market? How rampant? I mean, so many ways to attack this. You are recognized.
Where's the brain? I want to be recognized with a little
Oh,
brain.
I'm sorry. Forky recognizes Cindy.
Thank you.
Cindy,
I just
you
wanna
have
stay
the
in the
fork.
decorum.
You have the fork. You have the fork.
I can't remember the name of this gentleman. I don't know if you know his name or not. The one in the clip.
Yeah.
While he was there, he also linked up with, I shouldn't use the word linked up. He was in the same room with Gaia at one point when he was down there. So he was there at the same time Gaia was there. But this thing about grave robbers, they've been robbing graves and tombs for thousands of years. And they've gone around the world and taken back their property, whether it's Egypt, Israel, Turkey, wherever. And these tribes or these people or these countries have requested their items back. And normally they get them. So my point here is, I don't think it matters if it was a grave robber or an archaeologist. The only difference is how they get paid. Archaeologists get paid through funding through government and universities. Grave robbers get paid through the black market. But the bottom line is the stuff still comes from these areas. And that's a concern for me as we go further into the show. I put my fork down.
Thank you. Anybody else before? Because I have a couple of thoughts, but I don't want to hog it. Forky recognizes Matt Moniz. Go ahead,
All right.
Matt.
I would definitely like to back up what Cindy is saying. You know, the difference between a grave robber and an archaeologist is a piece of paper, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Before, I'm going to use my fork real quick. This is the right fork. Hopefully I didn't pick up a fork from lunch. I'm going to recognize myself on this one for a second. But I mean, I was talking to somebody, and I think it was Cindy earlier, about the fact that they have, I just saw a video, and you guys mic check us on everybody. I think Cindy's was sounding low. So when she comes back, let's do a mic check on Cindy. But one of the things that I just saw a video about an archaeologist digging up a body that was a human body from 800 years ago. To me, that is desecration, but nobody's complaining about that. I mean, to me, this is different. These are beings that look different. They look like they should be, should be dug up. I just don't understand how it's okay in one case and it's not okay in the other. Again, it's like, who's doing it? And I mean, the vaqueros are going to get there first. And that doesn't mean that they're not real objects. They just need to be studied, in my opinion. We're going to go to the next. Anybody else before I pop up some more stuff? And Forky recognizes Amy, Alien Girl. Oh, sorry. Nikki Starchild. Nikki Starchild.
Thank you.
Nikki
How dare you?
I got your name wrong.
So, yeah, it's all good. Who knows what I'm even trying to do with all that. But yeah, so what happened recently, it was interesting. I heard it on Fade to Black because Linda Moulton Howe was recently on Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, and they were discussing a recent discovery they had on planet Earth, right? I can't remember the specifics of where it was, of a building that had 90-degree walls, right? Like L-shaped walls that were constructed enough to last, get this, 400,000 years. Our whole idea So, I mean, like, I don't know. I didn't really delve into it. I just heard Linda Moulton Howe talking about it, right? But,
Interesting.
but like, that we don't know. And that's always what's so fascinating about this whole topic is, the aliens could have always been here. They could have, never been here. The fact that we can't even gauge that we've been along that long. I mean, there's so many hidden things in the history, in the past. So these mummies could be a trip for one reason that I keep coming across, which is that they've been carbon dated as 1,000 years old, and that's pretty compelling to me. So what they
Mhm.
found is 1,000 years old. So that could mean a couple different things. They could have mixed it with items. They would have had to have mixed it with items that were 1,000 years old for it to have the carbon dating come back. They would have had to have fraudulent tests for it to come back at 1,000. A testing error,
Yeah.
something like that. All that stuff would have to be looked at first. But I mean, if it's fake, they went to the efforts of mixing some sort of substance, some sort of specimen, some sort of part into these mummies that would make
Mhm.
them carbon dated at 1,000 years old, even if they were fakes. It's
Yeah.
interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, when we're going to get to a lot of that because, I mean, when you put it all together, it's a collective. It's not just one thing. It's that plus the scans, plus the DNA on some. So we're going to cover all of that. And we're going to take temperature of each of us towards the end as well as to see, where we're at and, see how we're feeling about this whole thing. Let me go ahead and let me go to the next one. So just to kind of follow the path. So at the hearing, how we got here at the meeting in Mexico, during the presentation, this slide popped up, and then I went down a rabbit hole because I scanned that QR code because they kept saying, I watched this whole thing in Spanish. They were saying, every single one of them said that all the information that they had was available for us to pull raw data on. So pulled this information, went down this QR code, which took me to this lovely page. This is the most interesting page of them all because it actually has every single one of these is a link, and it takes you to a collection of the DNA tests that had been done. Again, keep looking at Cuerpos de Humanos de Nazca. This was a little bit confusing when we saw the presentation because everybody was kept talking Cusco is actually supposed to be part of the same collection, just different beings. Mummies, non-mummies, because they're desiccated bodies, not technically mummies. So then that just brings us to, and I'm going to stop after this. I put together a mummy board. And if anybody on the chat has a question, please let me know. I'm right here watching you. And just, I was nervous at the beginning and I was just trying to make sure that everything started going okay. So this has been such an interesting journey in looking, started creating like a little board. You got your vaqueros. So they have a situation where the Peruvians, people out there, there's the Mario. Mario is really more of a sign for something much bigger. Mario is the one that supposedly got together with them, the person they, led everybody to the mummies. You got the Ankari Institute involved in this theory. Hameen, who's been, I really think he's very, well intended and what he does. You have the biologists, you have the university that has some of the mummies, you have Jaime, you have Gaia with Melissa Tittle and I love Melissa Tittle, we met her, as well as Benitez, who you will know from all of the recent tests as well. So this is the players in the game. I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on anything that you've seen particularly on any of these? I'm gonna stop myself for questions from the chat if you guys have any. Nothing? We can keep going. Oh, wait. I see a little fork. Amy. Forky recognizes Amy.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Nikki Starchild. I did it again. How many times am I going to do it? You guys need to call Domingo if I did it 4 times.
Okay. It's new. I've just become me, Nikki Starchild. It's a change and I'm taking it in. Ministry of Culture, Peru wanted to destroy the mummies. That gets me. They disliked the mummies so much they wanted to get rid of them, like abolish them from the planet, so that no one would ever study them again. That's a huge desire to have for something that's just, inconclusive evidence. Ministry of Culture. And that comes from Melissa Tittle. She researched it. She's got some good research on it. She's very objective on it. It is impressive.
Yes, Matt the fork recognizes Matt Moniz. Yes, Matt.
Yes. Now, to Nikki's point, not just in South America did they do that. The Smithsonian here in the United States did that with various burials, in particular giants and other things that didn't conform to what they have been taught and preached to in schools throughout the year. And the Smithsonian has admitted they've destroyed other skeletons and stuff, or have sequestered them way out of sight. That is documented. So for it not to happen in other countries, I would be shocked.
I actually have a follow-up on that to ask you. So, I mean, the Smithsonian, so this is documented, so that the Smithsonian...
Yeah, they've admitted.
Where did they get it from? Because, again, this goes back to the black market,
The Ohio mound builders, some of them were recorded to be very large, red-headed people. And that didn't fit what they knew to be in the area. So, hey, let's get rid of this so we don't have to answer any pointed questions.
But the Smithsonian had to get it. I'm just wondering if the Smithsonian is paying the vaqueros.
Well, they got outed. Somebody found some of the information and made it public, and they had to say, yeah, that happened.
Interesting. Forky recognizes Cindy.
Okay, I'll try to be a little loud. Can everybody hear me? Do you need to make adjustments? I don't know. I'm all the way up, so.
I'm going to turn you up a little bit more manually, and let's see. Can you say that again?
Can everybody hear me?
I think they can hear you. Okay, better.
Okay. So what I want to say about that is this has been going on since the beginning of the Smithsonian, is my understanding. Back in the Southwest, they found giants in caves, in the Grand Cases and that kind of stuff. And the people reported it to the Smithsonian. And so then the Smithsonian came out and took acquisition of the items. Then when people wanted to know what they found out, they said, we never picked them up. And this was, 100 years ago, 100 plus years. So the institutions at a government level or a higher university level need the information that has been there intentionally. And so why would we be surprised with all these cover-up conspiracies? Because it's a fact. I'm done.
Anyone else? Okay, hold on a second. Let me go back to this view right here. So, yeah, I mean, my personal thoughts on this one. Hold on. Let's see. We do have a question. Sorry if you've already covered it, but Lewis and Clark found giants, I do believe. I've covered giants on this channel. I love giants. Just within the Peru and Bolivia area, the stuff that the things that they found in Pumapunku, I did an entire show on that. Tiahuanaco, they have I can't believe I didn't take a picture for this presentation, but I mean, there's very much, some heads there in Tiahuanaco that look very strange. There's stuff there, and people dig it, and then it makes it to the wrong hands, like that one comment about the Smithsonian. So, yeah. Where was it? Did I get rid of that? Yeah. So people submitted the skeletons to Smithsonian to be studied when they mysteriously disappeared. So anyway, anything else on the players? this guy he was part of all the tests, the previous, because we need to understand the history of this whole thing. Maybe we can cover that a little bit. So you got the Ankari Institute, who still, he wants to keep the mummies or the beings in Peru. He doesn't want them to leave. The reason why Jaime, uh, and I'll play a little about this, he wants them studied. And they tried this back in 2017. The same hearing that they had recently, they tried it then, and it bombed. They refused. That is where the Ministry of Culture really just kind of pushed back. There was the day before the meeting was going to happen, there was this smear campaign on it. So he tried it in Peru, and he made some statements, and I'll play in a little while some clips that kind of explain how we got here. Anybody got any? I'm open to be interrupted at any point. Good. Okay. Any? Let's see. Questions on, as we go through this, the next thing that we're going to go through is a mummy by mummy, because that's been another puzzle that it's been really, really hard to put together based on everything that we've seen. So, Maria. Maria is about 1,700 years old, dated 245 to 420. She's 5'6". She's got a protruding skull. She has no ears, 3 fingers and 3 toes, 5 phalanges, 25 vertebrae. The toes and fingers have fingerprints, and I don't see them here. I thought they made it in here. They do have fingerprints. They're very odd looking fingerprints. This particular being is different from any of the others. It is covered in diatomaceous earth with cadmium chloride, and reportedly found in a cave. The other ones were supposedly, I thought, found in what they said were sarcophagus, but they were never cracked. And before we move on, the tests that were done on this one, you got DNA, you got CT scans, you got carbon-14, you got x-rays, and multiple labs have been involved. Before we move on to the actual DNA test, anybody got anything to say about Maria? Anybody have? Okay. We got the fork on Matt.
Okay. Looking at DNA tests, CT scans, and carbon-14, as well as the x-rays. All right. I wasn't able to really get any information out of the links that you sent me, but I'll try and do my best with what I got. But one of the first things I noticed about these mummies, and even back then, there's a particular thing that happens with inbreeding. And I know that in a lot of cases, royalty kept it all in the family, if you know what I'm saying. And one of the things is tridactyly, or in other words, three fingers, 3 toes, as well as other mutations do happen in conditions like that. I'm just saying that it's not necessarily extraterrestrial in origin. There may be a genetic aberration due to genetic inbreeding, but without seeing more definitive tests, you can't say one way or another if it's from here or not from here.
And one thing about that is the whole time I'm coming into the show with a sense of whimsy of, do we have a different species? Like, do we have a version of something that lived here that we're not aware of? Not necessarily that they're ET. I mean, but it does introduce an interesting factor that if beings here existed that look like that, that starts to kind of compound. And I do have all the details of the test that we can kind of go through here in a minute, because I did them in a screenshot, because even though I love the sequence reading archive system that I now know how to use, I don't trust to play around with it online. So I have screenshots of Maria. Anyone? Oh, the fork. Amy, you can speak.
Yay. Thank you. I have a question for everyone. Was this one of the mummies that allegedly had human bones in it? Does anyone know?
Well,
definitely
what do you mean by that? That humanoid tract bones?
No, because there's a lot of things that they're saying on the internet, like it was just mixed with a bunch of human bones, and they proved that. No, so there's no human bones in this.
Cindy's taking that one. Go ahead, Cindy.
Fantastic.
Just briefly, these mummies were found in 2015 by Mario the Grave Robber, and there were 6 of them. And he also found 2 skulls and 3 hands. Maria was the first one that he allowed the Ankari Institute to present to Gaia and the guy from the UK, I don't know his name, Victoria, Wawida, and then family of 3. And so the original cave only had 6 mummies, but in the process, they have come up with about 20 of them. However, Maria and Wawida are the only 2 that truly represent the human aspect, the best way I can put it. This is an actual body from head to toe. The Ministry of Culture did not want to do any study on these mummies because they felt they had been desecrated by having their thumb and little finger removed, as well as the ears. And they determined that the mummies had been desecrated, and they were studies on the 6 mummies. Now that's how all this got started. Then in 2017, Gaia comes in along with the guy from the UK, and there the story builds. But that, I just wanted everybody to know that the 2 mummies that Hami Musan presented at the hearing are a representative of the family of 3 that were. I hope I'm not sounding like I'm yelling. I just want to make sure.
You're fine. You're good.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
And so
we're gonna go mummy by mummy because it is so confusing as we go. Like I have every mummy outlined, and whatever test we got that we assume. But go ahead.
I just wanted everybody to know how this mummy fits into the whole picture, because there were 6 mummies, 2 heads, and 3 hands that were found in the original cave. I'm back.
Okay. No problem. So I'm going to show. So here is the actual. So down at the bottom, for whoever wants to play around with this, that might know more about this, is the link to the actual DNA test that was done on Maria. And again, this goes back to those links at the end of the presentation that was in the QR code. So it was kind of hard to find, but now I play around with this. So you get Ancient 3, and they actually tell you that is a test from the hand. This is kind of hard to read, so I did this other, that was just for reference. So here is the Chronos view from the DNA test from the SRA system and the national, I don't know, something. It's an actual site. Hey, Laura. So basically what they're saying here, since Chronos is a little bit hard to read, is this one says it's 97%. Identified reads, but it says Homo sapien 30%. But here it only shows like a 3% dark matter, and everything else is recognizable. So this green is what they don't recognize. So there's something in there, but I don't know if 3% is really a good indication. Yes.
Okay.
Matt?
Well, I can help explain some of this. Number one, you're dealing with the age of the mummy itself, as well as the compounds that it was soaked in. The Egyptians used to hollow out a body and fill it with a compound called natron, which was a desiccant which helped draw out a lot of the liquid. That also introduces a lot of other chemicals into the body that can degrade DNA into things that wouldn't be readable. Some of the stuff I've done at work, we sequenced DNA all the time for various things. And depending upon if your sample got left out or whatever, things will start to degrade. And it just means that it's not able to put the pieces together. The pieces are put together in what are known as base pairs. And sometimes if these base pairs get ruined, it's just, yeah, I can tell that these are chemicals, but I can't recognize where they go. I don't know where the puzzle fits.
Yeah, because I mean, it's hard because this one's so different from any of the others. And we're going to go, hi, Samo, saying hi to people as we go along. Hello. So I've got this, and they're very limited number of DNA tests too. So that's the other thing. And if I knew the SRA enough, I was trying to find like links to other related DNA tests from the project, but they seem to have been filed under a totally independent, like really spread out. And maybe it's because there were multiple labs involved in some of these, but then you have to look at it as a collective, right? So here's the other test done on Maria. They did scans, so they did CT scans, they did all kinds of x-rays. Here's the carbon-14 results for Maria. The phalanges of Maria is what gets me, because all the scans, even the one in the feed, don't really show anything strange or unusual or different in the scans of the feet. Yet, I mean, they have extra phalanges as well as the hands. So I'm gonna stop there for a second. Thoughts on the scans, anyone? Because those look like bones to me. And there's some that they have debunked, and they've actually said that there was some manipulation, and you can tell the difference in the X-rays. They're lighter, but I'm no scientist, so opening it up. The fork recognizes Amy.
Thank you so much. These scans at first glance, they look legitimate, but from someone like myself who doesn't have a background in science, who doesn't spend time looking at data like this or doing deep dives, once you get the skim, even if you go take a statistics class, you just like learn how in depth all the science can be on it. And so I always try to remind myself when I look at all this stuff that I really have trouble knowing, right? Which is like, so now that we're sitting here and Matt's kind of breaking it down, it makes a little bit more sense, and I'm processing it with other people live, we're getting a little bit more into it. A lot of these things start to come forward that make a lot of sense, because I get a lot of people telling me both sides, right? A lot of people telling me both sides. And I think the it's fake, is very, very, very loud right now. And I definitely think these are going to become more controversial as time goes on. I think a lot of people are going to go back and look at it, and especially because people haven't looked at the science completely. A lot of like the thing that happened with Jaime and why this is being pushed back so much is honestly because there's no peer-reviewed research on it. Like, people don't understand science. I don't.
Me
I have to
neither.
see a peer-reviewed journal. Like, if you know science, but I haven't studied it enough. So like, I need to lean back on a peer-reviewed journal article, or something that I deem as legitimate and has authority in it. And so what's going on with this is, who wants to stand by this mummy and say it seems like it's scientifically sound when all you've wanted to do your whole life is study beetles, right? Like, you're just looking for funding to go study beetles. You're not going to waste that energy trying to be like, these mummies are totally real. Like, it's not. That's a lot of ridicule to go through if you're a scientist and you're looking for funding on other stuff. You know what I mean? So I don't even think they get the peer-reviewed funding to do it. But so it's a really weird gray area, because I get a lot of people sending me stuff and like breaking down the science for me a little bit more, and it's a lot more intricate and detailed than the people think, because there's out of the skeleton, which from what I gathered was human. Was human, right? Like, legitimately.
But it's some type of human. It could be, again, I've never signed up for the whole it's ET. I just want to make sure we don't dismiss a new species, a new version of human. Matt, and back to Amy after that, because I want to make sure Amy has.
Oh, I
All
don't
right,
know.
I'll let her
Yeah.
finish if she needs.
Just real quick.
Yeah, no, go for it. Go for it.
Quick. I just, it's hard for me. It's hard for me because with Ada the skeleton, I know people say, well, like, oh, it was inconclusive. Like, no one really knew because there was that 3% or 5% or whatever that they couldn't test. And they said, like, oh, it's not legit, right? Or we don't know for sure. And Dr. Gary Nolan was the one who conducted that research back in that Greer documentary for Ada the skeleton, Atacama. Greer was the one who got it. And Gary Nolan is the scientist in it, being like, I'm looking at it. I can't really tell. I don't really know. And Gary Nolan's the one who says it isn't alien at all because the genetic sample was degraded. They couldn't even get the DNA out of that specific sample. And so for me, like, I don't know, like the whole it's all so weird, right? And then you throw in more mummies and more mummies and more mummies with elongated heads. It's just like either it's a data mining campaign, a total psyop, or so unbelievable it's actually real. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah. Matt, you were next.
Okay. Now, the fun part is being a scientist, I got insight into how the whole system works. And it is a system. The first thing people got to realize is the days of, we'll call it altruistic science, looking for science in the name of science is long gone. What science has become today has become a popularity contest to who can fund you the best for what your little pet project can do and what money you can make out of what your idea is. Okay. Let me shatter that illusion for people today. Somebody with the right, pedigree from the right school, hanging out with the other right people can get funded for totally nonsense ideas. And their idea is the one that's pushed forward. And God forbid you contradict them, because the good old boy network, will make sure that you don't get any more funding or your name is now mud throughout the rest of the industry. It all comes down to this: money. No if, no and, no but. It isn't about what's right and what is knowledge. I personally witnessed funded studies, pet projects, where they know that the information is junk, but they still push it forward because this person is friends with that person who is this person's roommate in this school in graduate study and stuff like that. And they protect each other's back, and money exchanges hands back and forth. Okay, this is how places get funded and how projects get funded. There is no money in researching stuff like this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you right now, research for the sake of research is not going to happen unless somebody can make a buck out of it. And in this particular woo-woo category that's always been, you're not going to get somebody willing to shell out the cake it takes to seriously look at it, because these tests are not cheap. I know, I do them. I run the equipment that runs this stuff. It is not cheap to do. So they're not going to spend the money if they're not going to get the money back out for doing so. And the other people are already in control of the narrative, and they don't want competition. That's what you're looking at. But even a layperson, if you can bring up a good resolution of, a CT scan or a good x-ray, you can tell, is something manipulated? Is that bone broken? You can, we've all,
right?
I'm one of these people that likes to do extreme sports stuff. So I've broken a number of bones in my body. I know an x-ray and oh yeah, I broke that, because you can see the break. You should be able to see something in a good enough resolution, whether it is or it isn't. It's not going to be, oh, it's a little bit pregnant. No, either that bone has been broken and inserted here, or it's not. And if it's not, then why is it different? That's when you start the scientific investigation. But like I said, without any money, You're not going to get people to seriously look.
Yeah,
I'm off my soapbox now.
no, I like your soapbox. I like your soapbox because the phalanges is what kills me, right? Creating phalanges and making them look exactly the same on all these scans when we're talking just a Moria. Right now, we're talking one mummy at a time, sweet Jesus. So we're going to talk. No, I'm going to go to you here in a second. I just want to finish this one thought. When you look at that, it just it looks like it would be very, very difficult to make it look all exactly perfect. And it's a tridactyl.
It's also expensive to do.
Yeah, I know.
For what gain?
And covered in diatomaceous earth with cadmium from like 1700 years ago. It's crazy. Forky recognizes Amy. Sorry, Nikki Starchild. How many times will it take me? Go ahead.
Nikki. I'm Nikki.
Nikki.
Hey, Justin's here. What's up, Justin? Sorry. We've got to get back to the panel. I know you shouldn't have given me permissions. Science is controversial, right? Science is controversial. New, pioneering, exciting science that could potentially be real always freaks out people, always is pushed back with a no way that could not be, right? And we see it time and again, all the time. I mean, it's amazing what humans are capable of and how unbelievable just the technology we've created alone shows us just how much unbelievable it is with the kind of science that we can uncover. And so we know science is controversial because you got Graham Randall, right, going on Russell Brand talking about ancient civilizations. Is he really talking about something that crazy that seems so obvious that we've been wrong a couple thousand years here and there? That's really all Graham's saying, or maybe by 10,000 years or whatever. We made some mistakes in archaeology, right? And people hate that. And we're not even talking about aliens. We're not even talking about something totally off the realm. We're just talking about saying, like, hey, maybe we got a little bit of archaeology wrong and we were 100 years off here and 1,000 years off here and 10,000. I don't know the numbers.
This is Coach.
You guys know what I mean.
We got Gobekli Tepe. I mean, you got things that are unexplainable. We know we got it wrong. I get headlines all the time now. It's like, oh, we found another thing that doesn't make sense, like the Naledi, the Homo naledi, that like they found that it actually there was burial grounds, which means that it was sentient. It's like they had, they buried people and they had a place, So I mean, they find these things all the time, but they just don't want to. In my opinion, they just don't want to rewrite history. Is it just too hard or expensive? Are there just too many people invested? And Forky recognizes egos.
That's what you're fighting is ego. This is my thing. I've camped on this. I can't be wrong.
I love it.
Because I spent all my years doing this. Yes.
Exactly. So then Cindy and then Nikki. Go ahead, Cindy. You're muty. Muty.
I also think that part of it has to do with religion. If some of this stuff, whatever it is, whether it's the 10,000, 20,000 years ago, a hammer from 150,000 years ago, or a mummy with no ears, this stuff goes against the grain of what most religions have been teaching for years. And powerful people with a lot of money will withhold funding their beliefs or what they want the belief to be. So I also think religion fits into this as well. And I'm not going to say Christianity or Catholicism or any specific religion, but the reality is when you start proving that things didn't happen in 7 days or this or that, or no, we're older, we had more than one earth and this, it's not going to fly. People are going to tamp it down. I'm done.
Nikki, and then Matt, and then me, because I'm going to talk too. Go ahead, Nikki. We're all jumping in on this
Yay.
one. This is
Yeah,
good.
this is
Go
great.
ahead.
It's like, we're not going to stop, right? No,
Nope.
religion, totally. All of this is about control. All of this is about control. If there's one rich guy out there who's got millions, billions of dollars, and he doesn't want us to know these mummies are aliens, he's going to make sure we don't know these aliens are mummies because he needs an extra 5 million, I don't know, to buy his son another mansion or whatever. And that's not fair. That's not fair. Money's not everything. You know what I mean? I think it's whack. So, I mean, this is completely what's going on. Like, we have to think about things in terms of money. I think that's one of the main drives by humans. And I think it has to go back to violence. We don't need to get into this. My philosophy's messed up in life. But, like, I think money has to do with a lot of, like, I need this. Like, I need this bread. I need this or whatever. And so that becomes this weird instinctual thing in these crazy cabal, super high up, like those 5 people who run the world. We know they exist somewhere. They're just sitting back, they're just sitting back doing whatever they want, like a $10,000 shrimp. This stuff is real. That's what's crazy about it, right? This stuff is real, which is crazy about it. And sometimes I think it's really hard to even visualize that this stuff exists, that this stuff actually exists. It doesn't take too much money to say, like, oh, it looks like this scientist is about to start studying these mummies. Like, all it has to take is a scientist, a funder, to come and say, hey, I heard you wanted to study these mummies, and I don't like that. I want you to study how they're not mummies, and I'm going to give you $100K for that. And scientist is like, sold. Started a business, the Mummy Inc., or whatever he wants to call his beautiful business. You can easily, a millionaire can think of a million ways to bribe a scientist, but it's not bribery. It's like, sweet, I got money to run my beetle
I got
study.
funded.
Yeah. I got funded, right? Like, I was going to go talk about the mummies, but screw the mummies. The power I have right now is the money that he's giving me to not talk about the mummies. People, and what's interesting to me is people will always say, well, I don't think somebody would do that for $1,000 or $10,000 or, only $2,000 or $500. But the truth of the matter is, like, people will kill other people for $1,000. Like,
or
people
less.
on the street do way less for that, and so it all is about how does that person perceive money? What is enough money to be like? And we really, 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 really can't say how much somebody could be bought, because somebody could be really cheap. Like me, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be like, well, you want me I don't know.
Yeah,
No
I want to
offense.
make sure that No, go ahead. Sorry. I want to make sure. I'm already seeing comments on the other mummies, and I cannot wait till we get there because things are a little bit harder. So I want to make sure that, Matt, he is recognized with this master fork. I love that fork, by the way. It's awesome.
It's an assault fork.
It's an assault fork. Go ahead.
High capacity. Yeah. Touching on what you're talking about, religions and how they would be disproportionately not wanting, this information out. Let me shatter another illusion about science. Science is a belief system. You set up a theory and you believe it's true until you prove it otherwise. And people don't understand that in doing so in a belief system, some people get so ingrained into that they don't allow for that change, just like in any other religion. Okay. So if they find something that's contradicting their dogma, even though they're supposed to be objective, that means that they lose face. And then all of a sudden, this is the new topic now, they lose funding. The two can sometimes travel hand in hand. See where I'm going here?
Exactly.
So, wait a minute. You're not funding me anymore. You're funding that. And, the jealousy and stuff. And that's when the mud starts flinging. And you're right about Nikki, especially if you're going to get funded by somebody. I find most scientists will be as much a prostitute to the system as you would think. If the money is there, they're taking it because they've got, school to pay off and other things and this and that, and they're looking for, I want to be the next one to be recognized as discovering this, even though 5 years down the road it showed that wasn't really that. But they got the money, they got the recognition, they got the plaque to hang up on the wall and then move on. I yield.
No problem. Anyone else before we go to the next one? Because we got is there a fork?
No, I don't want to
Mickey?
hold a party. I'll get more to say
No.
later. No, I
No,
don't wanna
there's
hold a
more
party.
because let's keep going because this gets really interesting, and I would I'm looking at it from just piece by piece, and then a collective before we judge. Let me go
Yeah.
ahead and put this back up so we can keep
Well, I was just
talking.
gonna say, there's nothing wrong with wanting to have, your science be funded, and there's nothing wrong with being, making decisions as to what you are going to study. Because as us all as individuals on this planet, we make commitments to certain energy fields. And if you're being called more to study something else, or even if somebody gives you that opportunity for them to propel their own agenda, right? You don't talk about the mummies, right? But you get to go study beetles. I mean, what's it really matter? The next guy who has the guts and has the abundance to be able to put that on the line as well, to be able to walk away from $100,000 investment to have you not talk about the mummies, right? Like, what's it matter? What's it really gonna hurt
Yeah,
people if they don't know these are aliens yet? Like, do you have to, there's another
we should be able to
person,
study it. Yeah, why not?
somebody out there, if somebody out there really thinks they're aliens, they'll study them, but it has to be worth their time. So I don't even think there's anything really bad about it, and even like the idea of being, like a prostitute, or a hooker for this kind of stuff, like that kind of thinking, I just feel like permeates sometimes.
Hmm.
Because like
Yeah.
Tesla died in the streets poor,
Mm,
right? And
goodness.
like some of
Yeah.
these scientists are so beautifully idealistic and they're so philosophical. Like they're not just science geeks, they have lots of cool qualities, about them. And so it's just really interesting how they feel, like they don't, it's scientists should sell out to the max. Like there ain't any field you shouldn't sell out more, that you need so
Matt
much
is
money.
totally agreeing. He's like, he's taking the assault fork on that one, and yay! Because
Yeah, man,
Matt
get the
definitely
money,
doesn't
right?
get
And that's
paid
why
enough for what he knows. But let's talk about Victoria for a second, because this is where I'm about to blow your minds even more, because Victoria is a different game. Yet these were studied before. This was, more part of the Gaia, the original Ankari Institute, the studies that they did prior to. So these have nothing to do with the mummies that you saw in Mexico. So this is mummy number 2, Victoria, but she's totally different. And I have protruding skull, but that was a typo because that one doesn't even have a head. That one, they actually did 2 tests on it. I know, I'm like, protruding skull, we can imagine. But the body, and you'll see here in a minute, it looks very, very similar to the others you've seen. So she's got 3 fingers, 3 toes. No, it is still 3 fingers, 3 toes, 11 vertebrae. The skin looks reptilian. Here's the picture where you can actually see that. And these were all done prior to the presentation. So this is not from current scans. So they did DNA tests, CT scans, carbon 14, x-rays, and then here's the detailed results. And if anybody wants to go, it's these links. It's just kind of messy once you get in there. But here's the bottom line for this one. So we got 72% identified reads, 27% non. That one shows Homo sapien only 3%, which is what I think, and Cindy, you might call me out on this one. I think that supported, that was kind of what Gaia was saying, or was that opposite? Because this one shows 30% dark matter. Go ahead.
Actually, what Gaia was adding the hominoid, the I'm having a hard time reading this. Gaia was adding all the hominid DNA together, and I think I don't know what it comes out. I can't see the numbers. It's so small on my screen.
8.2% hominoidy, 8%.
And then you have another one, which is another 7.41, and then another one that's 6 something, and then 3. And
It
they
winds
were
up being
adding
about
that
30%.
up to, right. And they were saying, I don't, they didn't give this detail in Gaia. Okay. But they did about Wawita and Maria, but not this one. But that's how they were coming up with their percent of being human, is they were adding all those up. And I just wanted to point that out, that it's 3% us, but there's so much other human DNA in there that has nothing to do with modern man.
Yeah, I'm going to recognize Matt because I want him to tell me. This has been something when I look at it, I don't know what we look like versus what this looks like. Go ahead.
All right. Basically, what I'm looking at here, one of the reasons why you're probably not seeing a good completion of the human DNA out of it is if you look down at it's almost 10% bacteria, which is telling me the bacteria has degraded your genetic material inside this body or whatever you want to call the thing. So you're looking at a contaminated or what's called a degraded sample. So whatever you're able to get out of it is only the stuff that the machine or the instrument can recognize as being complete portions of DNA. The rest of it is, like broken pieces. You got a gigantic puzzle. Part of the puzzle is falling apart, and you can recognize only this portion of the puzzle as being what the whole is. Does that help you?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know if, because there's so many things that are not human that's involved in this, it's hard to tell what this is. But I mean, this one was taken out of that tip of the neck. Yep. And then here's the one for the hip. The same being, they did a full DNA test. It's called Ancient 4. And this is what this particular test looks like. 36% identified reads, 12% bacteria. So this one, yeah.
Just to add, can I add something? Most people don't realize, the way genetics works and all things that are, evolved on this planet share a lot of common DNA. I mean, believe it or not, we share 50% of our DNA with a banana. So the point,
so good to know.
But my point being is, it's all in how it's structured and where the things are put. And this thing the instrument can only read the parts it knows. So it's saying it's part this and maybe part that. It's basing it on fragments that it can read and understand, is my point.
Anybody else before I move on to the next slide on this? Because there's scans on. Oh, wait. Did I not have scans on Victoria? I don't have scans on Victoria. We're going to go to Wawita. So this little one is similar to Maria, but it's just a baby version. It's about 800 years old. The DNA on this one, I could not find a reference on that presentation from the Mexico hearing, but it was in the Alien Project. So I don't have the details. They just calling it based on a test done in St. Petersburg, University of St. Petersburg, that it's 25% Homo sapien. And they do have scans in like x-rays and all kinds of stuff on this little one. Again, a little bit different era. So now we're starting to see carbon dating that's varied and beings that are slightly different. This one's more like Maria. But any thoughts on Wawita? That's the one that I have the least amount of data. It's probably Cindy that can fill more gaps on Wawita, because I'm not even sure how that one was. All of them are covered with the same stuff, and all of them supposedly from the same area. So before Cindy, I see Amy. Sorry, Nikki is raising her fork. Go ahead.
I'll be quick. This one kind of looks human to me.
Yeah, but it did have the fingers. It's a tridactyl as well. I believe it's different. It's very similar to Maria, but it's just like a small version. But they've done all kinds of tests, and again, we'll continue to go down this. I mean, it's taken so long just to get this level of detail on this case. Uh,
Just one
before
question for
Amy, after
everybody.
that, Cindy will go. Yes,
Just one
Nikki.
question for everybody. It's like I'm trying to get more information. Are these is this the mummy that people said Jaime released that that was a child's body? Okay. I'm trying to
Mm-mm.
figure out which one's
Mhm.
connected to the
We're going
other.
there. We're still, yeah, there's still more to go. We're just going in chronological order of kind of how they appeared in this whole puzzle. Go ahead, Cindy.
Wawita was one of the 6 that was found. It was the third one that was found. When they found it, they actually thought it was Maria's child, and they, of course, that blew out of the water when they did the carbon 14 testing. They do have X-rays and scans, but you can't see a lot because this baby is wadded up. It's not very big. It is a very small mummy. And at the picture down here on the bottom where the head is tucked in,
Mhm.
they actually put wool in their head when she was buried. But over time, it crushed down, and I'm not sure how they got the head to sit like that on this top picture. It's kind of freaky because I've
Yeah.
never seen that picture. I've only seen Wawita in this pose down here on the bottom, but they did remove the wool, and maybe when they did, the
Mhm.
head fell off. For all I know, I have no clue.
Yeah.
Um,
This was from
but
Thierry. I
this
mean, at a Inkari
Inkari
at a
incident,
the Alien Project.
yeah,
He's the
this
one
the
supplying the info.
yeah the Inkari Institute is the one that contacted Gaia and the guy from the UK, and there are only 3 mummies that were tested.
Mm.
And now you are at the end of any true testing that was done on any of the mummies. So when they say that the mummies presented at the hearing were 1,000 years old, they never tested that. Mario refused to allow testing of the family of 3. He maintained control of the mummies the whole time. And then I want to go back to this hand. When they originally tested Maria, they didn't test her hand and her feet. They went back and did a DNA test on the hand, was part of the original body. Okay? And I
Mhm.
forget where the other DNA test came from. I may have put it in my notes. But based on what Gaia said, Maria was only 24% human. Then, when they test this hand or they show these DNA samples from the hand and it says 90 something, and I know we can't go by that, Matt, because of and everything that you're talking about, but that is a huge difference in the
Well, I think
numbers.
there's not that many tests that have been done. There, Matt.
No,
Matt's gonna
no,
walk us through this. Matt, take it.
Well, first I want to let Cindy finish her thought.
Sorry. I'm
I'm
sorry.
done. I was just pointing.
Oh, okay. Now, the problem with DNA testing, especially in bodies such as these and other things, is the exposure to the elements. It's how it, like I said, we're getting into how the material degrades. Some portions may retain some of the DNA better than others. The best source, believe it or not, to sample out of a body is if you can find an intact tooth, because the pulp inside
Mhm.
contains uncontaminated, preserved DNA. That's the best source in ancient bodies is to sample a tooth. Now, the other thing to make sure that it has a lot of human DNA information besides the content of the DNA in the tooth is the teeth themselves. Human tooth evolution throughout the years is directly related to the adaptation of our diet when we started to evolve and things like that. And it's also along with some of the other things like the hands and feet and other things that happen with genetic inbreeding or other genetic problems is your dental pattern will be different. Your teeth will be in different places, different sizes, and there will be different configurations within the mouth with the teeth in the skull.
Yeah.
So if they can confirm that they have the normal amount of teeth in the normal places, you can definitely say that they're pretty much human because they have that dental pattern, and you can extract a good source of uncontaminated DNA out of an intact tooth in the remains of what's inside the pulp.
And I think Maria I thought that they had teeth on Maria. That was the one that had teeth, right, Cindy?
Maria did have
Correct.
teeth, and I'm not sure about Wawita, but none of the other ones did. They didn't even have a jaw, from my understanding. They are a mandible
The
joint.
jawbone.
So,
Yeah, there was something there. Then
yeah, they
we
didn't even
got
have
the
teeth.
family of three. I know that they've done scans.
Mhm.
The Ankari Institute, I believe, did scans on the skulls because these are like individual skulls that were found.
Right.
And they deem it to be similar to everything else that they're seeing, that they look like some of them were identified, and I'll show a sample of one that it looked like it was a little bit different, like something was manipulated in the chest, but that was really obvious. Everybody that was looking at the scans, all the bones looked the same. So here's a really interesting one. This is Josefina. This is not one of the ones that Jaime presented. But this is one that was, if we understood correctly, rejected by the university. So this one might be, we think this one's sitting at the Ankari Institute. And they did do scans of this one. This is before Jaime. So again, this is one of those similar ones with the breastplate, where the breastplate has, oh my God, what's that? It's got a mineral in it. I can't remember. It's got something weird in the metal. Go ahead, Cindy.
Oh, is it
Osmium. It's like it starts with an O.
Yeah.
Osmium.
Osmium. Thank you.
Chemist.
I know. That's why I'm like, take it, Matt. So now the interesting thing here
is the periodic table of elements. It'll be right about there.
Oh my God! Of course you would have that handy. I need one of those. The reason why we bring this one up is because there was CT scans, X-rays. I don't think that there's any DNA testing. Sorry, on Josefina, but Josefina is the scans and all the extra. This is just a small subset. If you go to that QR code in that presentation, it'll take you like through kind of a reel of all the scans and the x-rays, and we've been watching documentary after documentary, seeing everybody's take on this, and the scans, some of them look, I don't know. Again, the tridactyl, again, the phalanges. Anyone got any thoughts on this one? This one's puzzling. This is another one this one's a little bit less controlled. There's no, at that point, it's like you said, Cindy, at the end of those original ones, the rest don't have DNA tests done against them. Go ahead. You got it, Cindy.
And that's the puzzling part for me, is that Mario would not allow any testing. He allowed scans, but he didn't want the bodies damaged. And that puzzles me, because when they presented it at the Mexican hearing, they presented their mummies as if those were the ones that had been tested.
there was an assumption that they're from the same batch, which was interesting because they didn't show the same thing. Their mummies and these mummies are not the same mummy, which, you know, takes us to the next slide, which is here's the mummy. And I didn't check this one with you, but I wanted to check because this scan was done before. This is in the slide presentation from the hearing before the live scans were done later on YouTube. So I think this is the same. This is Carla. Because Carla, they call her Carla, the one that they tested live, that they did all the CT scans and the x-rays live on YouTube. They called her Carla, and I think this is Carla. So they had already done scans on Carla, because you see the 3 eggs in the chest plate is a little bit different, and then than the other one, than Josefina. And then here's where you can't see, but they did scan the same freaking mummy or the same freaking being. This is a bad picture at afterwards at the live stuff. It's this mummy. It's Carla. And but we don't have any DNA tests. And all we got, but I did watch all hour and a half of that session. They put the mummies, and we're looking at the equipment. It was a really weird view. This is a really bad view of it. But basically, they have everything in the dark. The mummy's in there, it's under the scan. They're looking at the results of the mummy. They're looking at the CT scan live. Then they go, and the weird thing is that they're all in the room when this is happening. That's kind of weird. That they could be there for a CT scan. And that's something I want to hear also from Matt. Looking at the ribs, it doesn't seem possible that this would be able to survive for long. They did say that it didn't look like it could breathe, that it didn't look like it could actually breathe the way that we would, or eat, or, challenges on walking. But short of, they did the x-rays right there. I know Renee keeps saying paper mache. I know, Renee. But at the same time, it's like, if you look at all the different scans that have been done on these things, if they, I don't know, Matt. How easy is it to fake all this stuff? By the way, a lot of these scans are done. Cindy and I were looking; they're all done at midnight or some weird times. The scans that they were showing, the presentations, they're all like somebody snuck into a lab to use equipment. I'm not gonna say, but that's that. All the timelines were like 12:30, 12:50 a.m., 11:59 p.m. So anyway, tell me what you think, Matt, because I'm confused.
Well, first off, being in a room during an X-ray or a CT scan is, quite possible. It happens all the time, regularly, in normal performance of things. Usually in X-rays and stuff, just for safety's sake, as well as CT scans, they put people on another side of a barrier just to be extra careful. But there's no real significant problem being in the room. Think about it. If you've ever had your own CT scan or your own X-ray, you're there. So, and you're the one getting the dose of it. So
they weren't going to leave the room for this party, then, not for the risk, because it's very low risk. Right?
The risk is very, very, very minimal. There's more risk to contaminating the scan than any problem actually happening to the person. Now, getting to the timeline of when they're doing it, if this facility is an active, functioning laboratory or university or hospital, depending upon wherever they are, they have patients that are scheduled to use these things regularly. And a lot of the time, the only time that they have is in the middle of the night, because that's when the instrument is available, because these things are very expensive, number one. So there are very few of them around. You have patients that need to use it for medicine and treatment. So they booked them right up until, midnight. So, okay, the thing's sitting idle now. Now you get to play with your stuff and be done by 6 o'clock in the morning, because the next viable patient is coming in for scan. That's why you're seeing them late at night. Does that make sense to you? How about unmuting?
How about unmuting first? That helps, because I was like, man, are they just sneaking in the middle of the night? So,
well, when I do my analysis on stuff, as you know, I test all kinds of stuff from all the paranormal things. I've got, soil from Bentwaters. Here's part of Betty Hill's dress. I did a scientific analysis on.
Ooh.
Wait, back up. Wait, let's see that.
Whoa.
up.
Yeah, we want to
Okay.
Show it up.
Matt.
Show it up, Matt. We're surrounded by the
Okay.
geeks.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you can't just
Okay.
be like, here's
You
Betty
Maybe
and
a
Bernie
little hard to
Hill's
see.
dress.
Yeah, here we go. Pieces of Betty Hill's
This is the
dress.
real.
He's hold on. Let me put him in here. Look at that.
Wow. That is a
That's
treat.
nice.
Like I said,
I love
spoiled from
Matt.
all kinds of UFO
Wow.
cases. Behind me, I got Bigfoot casts and stuff like that. The brick is from the haunted Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast Museum. I've got access to all kinds of crazy stuff. But one
That's
of the
cool.
one of the things I had to do when I'm doing analysis on all of this stuff is I have to use the equipment when it's not in use by the laboratory or on my own time. So I get how that they have to use the equipment at a later point when there's nobody around that needs it. Does that make sense? I'm sorry to
No, that makes
rambled
absolute
on.
sense. No, but here's my challenge with this whole thing. And you're not seeing every single scan that was out there, but after, Cindy and I have been looking at every single video, every documentary from different angles and different times and different teams, back in 2017 to current. And I got to tell you, the scans that they showed, this is where, when people say this is just paper or plaster or whatever, can they pull that off for that many little creatures or whatever you want to call them? With all those scans, with it live, they had a notary, they had an orthopedic surgeon, they had a radiologist, they had multiple people certifying those tests that they did live, which look a lot like what the Inkari Institute had done. So what are the chances that this is all paper mache? And I'm not picking on anyone, I just want to know. I mean, with all those just the x-rays, they look like just x-rays, especially Maria. I'm just wondering, what do you guys think? Yes,
Sorry.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, if it's paper mache and chicken wire and stuff like that, that would definitely show up in the x-ray and the CT scans. What I'm seeing there is the structure of bone. Not to say somebody couldn't take various chicken bones or whatever bones from whatever and glue things together and wrap it up in paper mache. But paper mache is pretty easy to determine, in a simple flake test. You can take out a piece of it, and if you look under a microscope, you can see, the pulp fibers. And not to mention, paper mache is just a calcium component that they harden over it. If you're, encasing it and stuff, sometimes it's a starch, depending upon which way you want to make it. But pretty simple basic test you can do to determine if it is. So
I'm going to do a follow-up on that, because another thing that we know about this is the cadmium chloride. And if you're looking at something that's 1700 years old, my understanding, and Cindy looked into this as well, I said it didn't think that they could be produced at that time, but the carbon dating says 1700 years old. And Maria specifically, let's focus on Maria. Maria is covered in it, and it's the same stuff that the others are covered with. Is what, and it gets explained as everything else. Well, they wouldn't be able to produce that because they're not capable. They were hunter gatherers. Back to a loop of, so tell me, Matt, what do you think of
you wouldn't necessarily be able to produce it with their simple means, but you can find it. There are sources of it, natural sources of it, that you can collect and concentrate and put together. And where they're at is a high desert, which is nothing but gigantic salt flats out there. There are all kinds of salts depending upon the minerals that were present when the water evaporated. So you have a collection of sources that they could have gathered it up from and concentrated by boiling in water, and certain types of things you can add, filtrate out, and produce it. So yes, it is not that difficult.
Go for it, Cindy. You can't wait. You're like, yay!
No, I can't, because everybody, and this goes back to ancient discoveries. the pyramids, those tons of rocks were drug across the desert on logs. These people didn't have the skill to make this cadmium chloride. The reality is, it's natural in high desert salt flats. Anybody want to take a trip to Peru and Chile and just
Yay!
see what is up in those mountains? I mean, they make lithium battery, or they produce the lithium in Chile for lithium batteries, for Christ's sakes, out of those salt flats. So what you're telling us is that it's actually capable of finding this in Mother Nature to be manufactured, which is telling me again that the narrative is to debunk without truly looking at all aspects of how these things could have come to being. Whether they, and I know that I believe Maria and I believe Wawita are bodies. I believe that they are full bodies. I believe that they were naturally mummified. I believe that. Okay, now I don't necessarily think they're alien, but I do believe that they're real and authentic. I know the other mummies are real. Whether or not they're authentic, I have no idea, because there's really never been any type of testing beyond the scans. But now I'm finding out that where they're debunking and saying, well, they didn't have the capacity to do this, to put that on the body, that it could have been done. I'm out.
No, we're like, yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Matt, please.
All right. There's several other instances of people doing this. It's found in ancient Greece, found in Egypt, and several other locations that did mummification. Also in China. Well, people don't know some of the oldest mummies come from China, not from Egypt and things like that. But one of the things that they would do, especially if they would, want to bury somebody with a god or an icon of some type, they would take bones of various animals and create a chimera, a representation of that god, deity, or whatever, and bury it along with the body. They've been known to, especially in Egypt, they mummified parts of cats and hyenas and all kinds of other animals together, making up something that is not naturally found. Same thing in, I think it was Greece, where they put a person with a horse making a centaur. They would create these bodies and mummies in ritualistic burials. So having pieces of other things and making a mummy of something, to Cindy's point, is not only possible, we have record of them already doing this in history.
And the only point I was going to add to this is that from a human perspective, if they are nothing, so we go back to kind of UFO narrative, right? If the little ones are nothing, and I'm sorry, but Victoria and the little ones have a lot in common. The only problem with Victoria is she doesn't have a head. But we know Victoria, the scans look similar to the ones that were done by Jaime. I'm going to play a clip of them here in a minute, but I just, if they're nothing, this should not be a problem. There should not be any conflict. We should be able to work this out and scan them publicly and show that they're nothing. But that's where this is where it just kind of forks my head. I am going to play something. Go ahead, Cindy. Before I do that, I want to play a clip from Jaime.
I need to step out. Can you put me in the back room?
Yes, I'll put you in. I'm going to take you, and then
and I'll be right
wave
back.
at me when you're back. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to play something because I found back to that alien mummies of Peru. There was something that Jaime said. Again, he tried this back in 2017 in Peru. He was trying to get them to test. They weren't talking to him. Not that I'm excusing. There's a lot of things that went wrong with the hearing, but this might add some context.
I know that the attitude of the government, the Ministry of Culture, is just to reject this finding. This is really disturbing because the real victim here is the truth. Even without the evidence, even without the bodies, even without looking closely to this discovery, they are saying that this is not true. Couldn't be true. That is all. If it is so sad.
So he mentioned that, and then and I'm stopping this because this is a clip from the session back in Peru in 2017. Day before, there was a huge debunk on the whole story. Like they knew this meeting was happening, just like the hearing in Mexico, but in Peru. And he was talking about they are losing them. I could carry them to Mexico today because they're not classed as national heritage, but handy facts. And then he said, let's see the next one. If they think that they're losing them and it's a big mistake, they're losing them due to a childish attitude. And I think it's a mistake. Here's the deal. I think, oh, Cindy, you back? Wave at me when you're ready. I see her backstage, not yet. So, Jaime, things went, I don't agree with the way that a whole thing went down. But if he feels like he tries with the Peruvian government, the university is keeping the stuff, the Ministry of Culture wants to take it and destroy it because it's nothing, and he feels like he's going to lose evidence. Not that I agree with the methods, but could it really be down to, hey, I tried in Peru and you won't do it, so I'm going to take it to Mexico. I'm going to open that up. Whew. What do you guys think? Not that if you don't want to touch that with a 10,000-foot pole, that's fine. I just need to keep an open mind on this. Alien girl. Starchild, go ahead.
Yeah.
Nick.
Well, I think the easiest perspective is the skeptical one, hands down, every single time. It's the easiest one. You know you're not going to be called stupid if you pick the easier one. You know, and that's what makes some of these ideas truly revolutionary, and with all the things that all of us friends like to talk about. So when I think about, the other side of this with people, because right now it's a constant like badger almost of it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. Like that's the main headline on every channel. I think last time I checked, Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying it was BS. Jeremy Corbell was saying it was all BS. All these people were saying, it's not real, but it doesn't matter what alien body we put in front of the public. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. This is the same response. If it would be real, if it would be fake, this would be the same response. A lot of it rooted to what Matt was bringing up, which is the funding. We want like solid hardcore evidence. They already got to get the bodies in at midnight because it's such BS. Excuse my, it's not BS, but like that's the people's perspective. They're like, we're not going to let you do the mummy bodies during the day. That's why you girls found it time stamped at midnight. They were doing the scans with these bodies at night because there were other things more important that were like on top of it, right? And so people just like
yes, there were insurance
time.
companies to charge for the work. When the scan is being paid for by your healthcare system, and I'm not getting any money to scan these bodies, guess who goes first?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Hold on.
Sorry
to
interrupt.
No. I want you to because this is just so fascinating.
Like the money has so much to do with it. The money is what they want. Like everywhere you go, So like my big thing is, why is this happening? Is this just one ego, or is there a bigger agenda to the mummies? What's going on? Why is all this being pushed out? Like, is this all we have? Is this all the evidence that we have now that it's like this all that's coming out? This is it? We get the everybody's like, let's throw all the cards on the table. Here's the mummies. We think they're aliens. Is this what we get? This is all we have? Everybody's like, throw all the cards
I'll
on the
admit.
table. I hope that's not all we have, because it appears that Bob Lazar won't let element 115 on the table. He's holding on to that. There's a lot of people with the implants. They're not throwing that on the table. All these people have evidence that they don't throw on the table to study. All right, I'm done.
No, I'm gonna pass it over to Matt, but before I do that, there was a lot that was presented in that hearing before we even got to the two little bodies. It was 2.5 hours of initiatives and cases and references and data that I'm still trying to dig down because we got so distracted. We had to do this particular piece. So, I mean, there's a lot more out there. But Matt, I know that you're like dying. You're like, release the Matt. I saw release the Matt. There we go.
There you
Release
go.
the Matt.
Yes.
Go ahead,
Look,
Matt. Release the Matt. He's passionate. I like it.
My view on this, and this comes from talking with a couple of other people, the whole thing about the mummies and the bodies there is, if they were true alien bodies, the government would have grabbed them a long time ago. We would never have seen, they never would have seen the light of day. There may have been the initial flash, hey, look what I found, disappeared, and then 27 different news agencies out, that was just a crackpot trying to make a buck. But since these have continued on, I'm sure that the government, who has recovered bodies, knows what their structure looks like, and looking at that going, don't look like what we have, so let them run with it, because it distracts from what we're doing. A form of type of disinformation. But the other thing is, they want to control the narrative, the release of the information. It only becomes released officially once they have control of it. And they don't have control right now, so everything's all fake. It's got to be fake. People, I guarantee you, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's a scientist I can't stand because he's an arrogant idiot.
That's why I love you. Go ahead.
But the point being is, you got a lot of these people proselytizing, beating their chest without actually having looked. Did you actually go and look? I mean, you're currently looking at what's on TV. Have you actually looked into the data of what is produced? You're basing your opinion on what? You're a scientist. You're supposed to look first before you speak, right?
I mean, we all should, even though we're not scientists. Let's at least look before we take somebody else's opinion as gospel and dismiss something. Go ahead, Cindy.
Let me see. Why now? I'm going to try to answer that. I'm new to the whole YouTube thing, and I'm not new to UFOs, but I am new to the amount of UFO information I've been getting over the last year. But I believe the reason for now why Jaime did this, congressional hearings in the United States, non-human biologics was brought up. So then it's orchestrated for an international hearing in Mexico. It was I don't want to use the term perfect opportunity, but it was probably the only opportunity Jaime or anybody was going to have to put the shock value across and that's why I think it happened. Is that, we got aliens. You don't have them, but we do.
You wanted that attention-getting device, right? Bam!
Right. Okay. That's my answer to why now.
Before we move on, I want to bring up, because our rebel that we're missing today, has a lot to say too. So why are we so reluctant to look at the idea of being genetic defects? The human body is fascinating and look into decorations from the norm, while not as exciting as an ET. It's interesting. I'm totally open. Again, I don't think this is ET. I was thinking it was like some other species. But if that turns out to be just genetic defects, they're pretty funky. And we got tridactyls and I think that's it, so I'm totally open with you, sis. I miss you. Wish you hadn't been part of this too, because she had said, she was going to be my rebel to shake it up. too. So thank you for being in the chat. So what did, we're heading towards an hour and 45 minutes. So I'm going to start kind of closing it up and see, gathering some final thoughts. How do you feel versus, from when you walked in here with, everything you saw in the last few weeks to where you are now with this? Has anything changed? And I'm going to go one fork at a time. I'm going to go to Cindy first. Putting her on the spot in her debut.
Has anything changed? For me, no.
For you.
No.
I knew that you'd be the same because you and I have been talking about this. So
the bottom line is they're real. You can touch them, you can see them, you can throw them across the room if you want, you can even break them. So they're real. Are they authentic? That's my question. And we're not going to know until they do testing. But I also want to state that the St. Louis University took possession of in 2019. And I've seen nothing done with those out of Peru. And so they had gone in 2019 and asked the Peruvian government, would you please, Jaime Maussan sitting there in this congressional hearing saying, please, please, please look at what we have here. Then the archaeologists came up that are from Peru, and they said, no, they've been desecrated. No. So then the Congress said, well, we're not going to look into it. Cultural Ministry said that they've been desecrated. So then this university takes control of 5 of the original 6. And Josephina was rejected for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. We've seen nothing or heard nothing. And that's 4 years ago. So the question is, was Jaime right or Jaime wrong? And I'm on because there's something there that people have been ignoring, or that the governments have been ignoring and not wanting to look into. That's me.
Perfect. Love it. Very good point. Next to Nikki, Starchild. I finally got it right. It took me an hour and 47 minutes, but I got it right. Go ahead, darling.
Thanks, Akashi. Appreciate it. Yeah, I love you too. And I think that, like I said, I think this mummy thing's just a little bit more controversial than people may like. It takes so much time for this just to be nailed into people's minds, right? Like, this isn't going to be accepted overnight, right? Like, some of these conspiracy theories turn out to be true. And it's because people think about it, they talk about it, they put it out there. And the truth is that the scientific process is halted currently on the mummies. If the mummies had showed up with totally legitimate data, all questions asked, everything's cool, every scientist said, yep, that's alien, let the public know, it would be totally different. But there are obstacles to funding, studying alien mummies. So for me, because I've talked to a lot of people who I really trust, a lot of intelligent people, and a lot of people who I would consider open-minded, right, and are looking at this, I'm convinced I don't know. So I don't think with the Mexican mummies, I would say they're totally fake. There's so many that have been put to the table, right? Like, there's so many that they're showing us, and so easy to get them all mixed up. And some of those might be fakes. Some of those might be real. If one of those is real, that's life-changing. Hopefully this is an exciting thing for young folk getting into archaeology to study, these hidden corners. Like, they're the next generation. Get into looking at these mummies, ask these questions. They might be the ones 50 years ago that say, these Peruvian mummies were really alien. We figured it out. We had the tech and everything. There you go. And everyone's like, oh, cool. Right. Like, no one's going to care then. You
Someone's
know,
gonna
like they
care.
care now, and then they'll put the funding towards it, like we see with like yeah, the Galileo project, right? Privately funded,
Mhm.
lots of money, lots talking. There's ET talk there. We're gonna do whatever with finding anything non-human. So things change, and so I don't know. Like I feel like this is something that could be go on for a long time. And if I put my money on saying it's fake, I think there's a possibility I could be wrong. So I really don't know in this case. It's fascinating, and it becomes more of a triggering conversation for people by the day, because when you look at it deeply and you look at agendas and motives, it's like, well, it could be real.
Very good. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
last but not least, Mr. Blinded Me with Science. What do you think?
Well, I think the main reason why this really hasn't been looked at yet has to do with control of information. These bodies did not come into the normal routine. And what it is it's outside of these gatekeepers' control. Since they don't have the control of it, what they got to do is spin control. They got to angle it in a way until they get control of the information, they get control of the materials. Then they'll slowly meter out what they feel is worthy for the public or us unwashed peasants to know. That's and
Yeah.
if they find anything that currently contradicts what their belief system is, and yes, again, I reiterate, science is a belief system, and not just a methodology. Until they can gain control of it, they're going to spin it in a way that distracts the people from it. Because if you get enough people saying a lie, eventually the lie becomes true in people's vision. May not necessarily actually be true, but they think it's true. That's how folklore, myth and folklore, become, but even in myth and folklore, there is a grain of truth in it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, just like Cindy was saying earlier, these things are real. They're physical thing. They are real. They exist. So, now the trick is being able to do the testing on them. In order to do the testing on them independently and to get valid and reliable, trustworthy data, it would have to be independently funded outside of any type of controlling group, meaning either government or universities, because most people don't understand in a lot of cases government and universities are very much tied together.
Yeah.
So
No, agreed.
and they're all looking to control. The government funds universities not only in their studying, but where do you think most of the students get their money from to go to school? It's a gigantic welfare system, if you want to know personally.
Yeah.
I'm calling a spade a spade. It's what it is. So if the government is the one giving you the money, to be the university, you're also going to toe the line with what we tell you to. So,
I'm
all right.
I'm with you. And this has been fantastic. The only thing I can add is that it just reminded me so much, I didn't come in here with an idea that this is ET. I came in here with an idea that Maria and Victoria are different. And Victoria, because she looks just like the other, she's part of a batch that has also been scanned, like Josefina, that we might have something of two types, because Maria's totally different than these 111 little people, instead of knocking it out and dismissing it and calling it a fake, we took the time to go look at those DNA tests, look at the information that they said was available for us to look at, and go research, because otherwise I would have just picked, we need to look. We need to look. There's always the devil's in the details, and Peru just called me out because of the elongated skulls and its history. So that's kind of what drove us here. And Cindy was like, I'm totally with you. She was like, I'm so glad you landed on this, because there's something weird about these mummies, these non-mummy mummies. So, well, I wanted to thank you guys so much. First of all, Matt, where can we? What's going on with you next? Where can we
Well,
find you next?
well, you can always still check me out on my radio show. We're in our 18th year, SpookySouthCoast.com. We
Spooky
took the
South
summer off
Coast.
because we all are going, and starting next month, we're starting back up on Saturday nights, 10 to midnight Eastern Standard Time. And I'm
Very
also
cool.
going to be still doing Inner Space with Tom Reed.
Sweet.
I've got various other lectures. I just did, lecture on trace evidence up at the Exeter event. I've got a UFO event going on in Leominster, Mass. I'm around.
You're all over the place. And oh my God, I can't believe that you were able to make it today with everything that's going on, because your schedule was crazy. I'm just so grateful that you did, because you're Mr. Science. You blinded me with science. So I'm going to
And I
go ahead.
enjoyed being here, and I especially enjoyed hanging out with Nikki and Cindy, a couple of
Yes.
very lovely, intelligent ladies, along with yourself, of course, Chris.
Thank you. We're friends. So let me switch over
And
to
hopefully the rest of the
Nikki. Oh,
evening,
sorry.
I was going to say, hopefully the rest of the evening will be as lovely as you three.
Oh, thank you. I feel
Very
so special.
sweet.
You take that one, Nikki. That's
Oh,
so
thank
sweet.
you, Matt. Not as special as you, Matt.
You're
I don't
awesome,
like
Well,
Matt.
windows.
thank you. Huh?
I don't like windows. She called me special.
Oh,
Oh,
amazing.
no, special
You're
in a very
amazing. The thing
special. In a
we
good
learned from science from you tonight, Matt, was just so invaluable. And Cindy, the research, so spot on. And Chris, production value,
It was fun.
the churn out, so amazing. And the conversation, the research, the key points you had, like it was beautiful. Thank you for letting me be part of it. I am honored.
This was
Whatever.
we miss you, Lynn. Lynn is like putting
We miss you,
messages
Lynn.
up. We really missed you, Lynn. We'll have to do another. I know that Matt was super disappointed, because I basically told us like Lynn's gonna be there, and he was like, man, but he still we and you were there on chat the whole time. So, and then finally, thank you so much, Amy. So what? Oh, you have a show. You have your show. So tell me what's going on next, because you also
I
have
have
a
my
special
insane daily show that makes no sense. Monday through Friday at
Makes
5 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Come check us out. Thanks.
And you have one next weekend. You do have a special one next weekend,
Yeah, I
don't you?
do have a
Saturday
special
show.
one. Well, they're all special. They're all special. It's
I'm
our
saying off
corner in the
times.
universe. Yeah. Yeah, of course our morning's special, but not everyone's invited if you're not a starseed. But we have the starseed expert coming next Saturday, Ishmael Perez. He is a awakened starseed and a cosmic ambassador. He is, I think I can say this, in energetic transmission with cosmically oriented people. I dig his message. His message is
Check that out.
very positive, very cosmic, very, like something that I think I and a lot of the people who come to the show resonate with, because it's all about getting into the 5D, and so that'll be really fun. I'm excited. We've got some great questions about the Draco order for him, and a lot of fun questions that I think we're going to have fun talking about. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting.
Everybody tune in to Alien Girl 111 Monday through Friday. First thing in the morning, depending on your time, just check your times. And then we got Cindy, Stargazer Cindy, who's now made her debut. Now she's going to be like, I'm sorry, I need a booking agent. I can't handle
No, I don't think so. I
Any
think you'll
final
see me in the you'll see me in the chat family on Alien Girl at 7 a.m. Eastern time.
There we go.
Monday through Friday. This is not going to become a job.
Are you sure? Because I was thinking a channel. I'm going to be like your momager. We were going to have so much fun. Dang it.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I enjoyed being on your show, and I'm glad that I had an opportunity to research this with you. And if you want more research done on something else, let me know.
Let's
this
partner
isn't gonna
up, and
become a
she's a
hack.
researcher extraordinaire, this woman. I was like, what about this mummy? What about that one? Who's Carla? Thank you so much to all of you. I'm going to take you guys backstage. You can hang out for 1 second, say goodnight. I'm just going to say goodnight to the chat. So thank you, Cindy. I'm going to put you back there. Love ya. And Amy, Nikki Starchild. I did it again, but I love you because you're always Amy to
Love
me.
you too. Thanks for letting me
Love
be part of this.
you.
You guys are awesome. Matt, you're awesome. Cindy, you're awesome. Always fun to talk aliens with Star Fam. Woo! Thank you.
Woo! And the scientist, Matt Moniz. You are a rock star. Thank you so much. For all of your information. It was so great to be able to kind of bounce that stuff off of you because we're not scientists and you are. So,
well, I hope I was able to be clear enough for everybody to understand.
Oh my God, you were absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much. And we'll be putting your stuff on links. Hang out there for a minute while I say goodnight to the chat. So thank you guys so much for making it today. I hope you had a good time. We just wanted to kind of go through that stuff and not leave, stones unturned. Next on Mindforked, I have MUFON Gets Mindforked with Jesse Peak. So on Wednesday, Jesse and I will be spinning the wheel of MUFON. And then we're probably going to go down our own memory lane, just like I did with Priscilla. So I'm so excited that we're going to have that. And I'm going to say goodnight to the chat. Thank you guys so much for being here. Lord Rebel, Lenny, we missed you so. Matt D, Diane Boss, Poner, Timmy, we love you. Rock SD, Lord Rebel, Jack, Jeanette Angel, who is a literal angel, Nightmare, and everybody else. I have to go back because I'm already way over time. So I love you guys, and I'm going to leave you with our little outro. And you guys have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and hopefully I'll see you on Wednesday. Peace.